in today's video, I'm trying 3 craft kits so you don't have to. I've got one question on my mind, and that is, are they worth the money? Let's get into it. So if you've been watching this channel since the start, you'll know that I started this channel in part to try lots of different crafts. Crafting can be really expensive, so I thought maybe a craft box was the way to go. So I started looking around for some craft boxes, and it became apparent very quickly that they were not necessarily the cheaper option. It did seem cheaper in some ways to buy all the ingredients you need or the resources you need rather than buying a pre-packaged kit. But there are some situations where I think a kit is appropriate, and we will get into that after I've shown you the DIYs. So I have these boxes here. These are the remnants from the DIYs. So the first craft box I already owned, and that was one my husband bought me for Christmas last year, and I was saving it for a video. The second one he bought me more recently. Now those two were quite cheap. And the third one I sourced off Amazon from an independent seller, which was a bit more expensive. So I'm going to show you the DIYs, and I warn you, one of them was a complete and utter disaster. My fault, my lack of skill. I'm not the most skilled crafter out there for sure. You have my full permission to laugh your head off. I've got one that was a disaster, darling. One that was okay, and one that come out really well. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which is which in your eyes. I'd be really interested to know that. If you stay after the DIYs, then I'll have a talk about whether they're worth the money and in what situations we would purchase them. So without further ado, let's get over to the first DIY. So this first one is my very first Christmassy DIY on the channel, and I thought now that Halloween is over, I can get away with showing it to you. So let's have a look what came inside the box. We've got some fabric for the body, arms and hat. We've got some filler. We've got a hand sewing needle that's safely in this polystyrene. We've got some wooden beads, knitted sleeves, fur for the beard, and some thread, and of course the instructions for what they're worth. So first off, I'm taking the fabric out to see what I have. I have 3 of everything, as I should. One sleeve piece was missing, but I found it a bit later on. I started off by hot gluing the hats. The instructions stated to hand sew, but I couldn't work that out. Plus, I'm not a fan of hand sewing. Hot gluing is messy, and I made a right old mess as per usual, but I got them done in the end at least. Looking at the instructions, I somehow worked out that I needed to sew the body together now. Taking the red thread as it's so matchy with the fabric, I started to sew around the outside, leaving the top open. Once this was done, I turned it in the right way and filled with stuff in, and then I took the lazy route and hot glued it closed. Onto the sleeves, and these were so small that I decided to get my hot glue gun out again. I turned up the hem and hot glued that. Then I glued the side seams, but I ended up pulling the hot glue apart because I could not get the knitted arms inside. So having folded the knitted arms in half and glued them in place, I then put the arms in the middle of the sleeve and glued around it. Once that was done, I attempted to sew the arms to the body, but it wasn't working. I really was not sure why. Maybe the needle was struggling to get through the glue. Anyway, I just decided to glue the arms to the body. So now it's time to attach the little pre-cut beard, attach a hat and nose and string to hang it, and feet like so. And then I got to work making the other 2. The main thing I did differently with the second one is that I glued the body, and this made it bigger as there was no seam allowance. And that's it. Here's my 3 little cuties. They're not perfect, but I love them and think they look cute hanging on my Christmas tree this year. So that was a lovely little craft kit, don't you think? That one cost $2.99, and that was from TK Maxx or TJ Maxx in America. The instructions were not good in that, but we'll talk more about that later. Let's go over to the second DIY. So this next DIY is one I have been looking forward to for a while. We're going to make a macrame plant hanger. So this kit comes in quite a small box from a small business. Here's their details. I love how they've packaged this in tissue paper. I can see that thought has gone into the packaging, and that makes my little heart sing. Inside there's a wooden ring with 8 strings of macrame cord. It looks knitted in texture, 2 small pieces as well, a metal hook, and the instruction booklet in full colour. So let's get to work, shall we? First off, I'm taking some frog tape and attaching the wooden ring to the table and placing 8 strings through the ring until they're folded in half. This will create 16 strings to work with. Taking the 2 smaller strings apart, I took one and created a gathering knot. To do this, I created a hanging loop and then wrapped it around 6 times and passed the end of the cord through the loop at the bottom, pulled the cord at the top, and then cut and tucked in the ends. Up next, I made a little bit of an error, but it's okay as it served as practice. I created 10 half square knots right under the gathering knot. I didn't read the instructions properly as it tells me to measure 16 inches down and then start them. Once I realised my error, I undid my work and started again properly. So you can see when I restarted, I didn't make sure the cords were laying flat. This is important, so I undid it and laid them flat and got started again. So to do a half square knot, you want 4 cords. Pass the left one over the 2 middle ones and the right one over that left one, under the 2 middle ones and through the gap by the left one. It's hard to fully explain, but if you watch this back, you'll see what I mean. So once I'd done that first one, which was so easy, I went on and did 4 more using the rest of the cords, making sure that they were all done at the same length. So now I had to take 2 cords from one section and 2 from another to create a square knot. To do this, it's a half square knot like I showed earlier, and then another half square knot, but from the right to the left instead of the left to the right. I then had to do 4 on each section. Then last but very much not least, I needed to do another gathering knot at the bottom. I love doing these gathering knots. They're so easy and so functional. Once that was done, I trimmed the tassels and it was done. This could not have been easier or simpler, and my plants have a lovely new home. My pot is a little on the big side, but it still works perfectly fine. I remember my late nan doing macrame. I'm sure she'd be excited to see me taking it up too. Did you like that? I've been wanting to try macrame for the longest time, and I can't tell you how much I loved it. So much so, I may or may not have purchased 7 colours of macrame thread. I'm zipped. I'm not saying anything. So that one was a little bit more expensive at $13.99, but I was really happy to be able to support a small independent seller. What more can make you happy than that, honestly? Before we chat about things, let's go over to the final DIY. Oh my God, I am so embarrassed. Are you ready for the llama disaster? So you can see what the llama's supposed to look like on the box. Hint, mine comes out nothing like this, but I wanted to show you warts and all, so here goes. Opening up the box, we can see it has wool roving for the body, much smaller amounts for the details. It also has some bits of felt and thread for the details, 2 polystyrene innards to help shape the animal, which confused me no end, 2 felting needles in this polystyrene block, and the instructions. To be honest, the instructions in this one and the gnomes look really poor. And on the other side, the only written instructions are there to tell you how to stab the roving. So first up, I take one of the polystyrene pieces and place the wool roving over it. I start stabbing away. No idea if I'm doing this right or not. Feel free to tell me in the comments where I went wrong. This whole project is wrong from start to finish, so do help a girl out. But this is how I thought I needed to do it. I mean, it was working. It was sticking to the polystyrene, and that's what I wanted. I kept wrapping and stabbing until all the roving was attached. I think I definitely had too much roving on the body around the neck, but I kept stabbing it, hoping for the best. And I kept going with more roving because, you know, when in doubt, add more. Now I'm trying to work out how you attach the second piece of the polystyrene to the first to make the correct shape. It was a conundrum. I still have no idea. The instructions were no help. Anyway, I plodded on, covering the second piece in the same way as the first. So I thought I had a eureka moment. I thought I knew how this goes together, so I did it how you can see on screen now, adding even more roving in order to keep the 2 pieces together. And this is where it really starts going wrong. Well, actually, it went wrong a long time ago, but this is where it really goes wrong. Even I can see watching this back, I am doing it all wrong. So now I'm stabbing this bit of roving to create legs. I just realised I'm supposed to use a block all along to work on. No idea what I'm doing, I'm just following the images. So now I'm attaching those legs by stabbing the loose roving into the base. I was wondering at this point how it was going to hold up as there's nothing firm inside of the legs. I must have been enjoying myself so much I kept forgetting to be in frame. Thankfully, the gods gave us editing abilities. Look at this disaster. At this point, I start wondering whether I should give up the ghost, but I'm persevering for a little bit longer. So now I'm creating a tail and I've no idea how to attach it to this monster of a llama. But here we are. I keep plodding on, or should I say stabbing on. Now I come to the fiddly details and so decided to get the hot glue gun out. This was a mistake. I just should have sewn it. I made some attempt at decorating the saddle, but it doesn't go to plan and I end up gluing the saddle to the llama. But it's really not firm enough to hold it. Added eyes, but look at it, it's hilarious. Oh my god, this is hilarious. I try adding a nose and a mouth, but I'm just making it look worse and worse. It's funny now, but at the time I did get quite stressed with myself, so I decided to leave it and come back to it the next day. The next morning I wake up and Fred the cat has been playing and he's pulled it apart. It's a sign. It's definitely a sign. I make a feeble attempt at rectifying it. Can you even tell the speed of my voice means I want this over as soon as possible? I even got a pipe cleaner to hold it in better, but no. It just needed to go into the failed attempt bin. C'est la vie. So here it is in its glory. I'm not sure what animal it's supposed to be honest. Maybe it's a giraffe crossed with a ferret, but it's not a llama by any stretch of the imagination. Oh wow. I tried. Did you laugh your head off? Go on, admit it down in the comments. I know you did. I did. I was nearly wetting myself with laughter the next day. As I mentioned in the video, not at the time. I was a little bit stressed out with it at the time. Why can't I get it right? I don't know. I think it was partly the instructions were really, really bad, but partly it was my lack of skill as well. I'm not put off from that though. I do want to try needle felting again, and I might watch some videos this time before I attempt it. So let's have a little bit of a chat about craft kits. What a craft kit is, perhaps I should have said this at the start in case you don't know, but what a craft kit is where a seller or a company has put all the things you need to make a specific craft into one box. So they've curated the resources for you. So it's taken all the work out of it, and you just receive the box. You've got the exact amounts you need to make the thing. And I do think that they have their place. I do. I think if you're trying lots of crafts like I am, it can be handy so that there's no wastage, is there? And you're not spending money you don't need to spend. They can also be really handy for gifts. If you wanted to gift a crafty person in your life one of those, maybe for Christmas, which is coming up, or another occasion, then that could be quite useful because you don't know as the giver whether they're going to like it or not. If you want to do a craft and you know you're going to love it, like for me, I knew I would love macrame. I've been watching videos on that for ages. It came as no surprise that I had complete joy making that. So really, I should have perhaps just bought the resources from the off. But, I might not have liked it. You never know until you try something. And so were the craft boxes worth the money? So the Christmas gnomes and the llama was $2.99 each, and the macrame was $13.99. You get what you pay for, essentially. Those two boxes, the instructions were so poor. All you had was poorly lit pictures, and they made no effort to contrast the thing they were showing you with the background. At certain points it had a white thing it was showing you against a white background, and how you're going to see a little sewing needle against a white background, I don't know. And it come with no words apart from it told you on the back how to stab the wool roving, but it didn't tell you what you had to do for each step in words, only in really bad pictures. So that's where I went wrong with those crafts, and I was relying a lot more than I should on hot glue, which probably didn't help me. But also it was my impatience, especially with that llama. I just didn't know how to make the details on the llama look good, and probably I could have gone and looked that up. Those cheap craft boxes are not going to encourage anyone to take up that craft. If you're buying a craft box for yourself or for someone else, invest some money in that initial box. If you're buying off an independent seller and not TK Maxx, then you're supporting someone who's trying to make a living. There's that too. Do check out that macrame seller's details down below. I'll leave them in the description box. So I paid for it. It's not sponsored or anything like that. But, I just want to support a seller, and I was really, really impressed by her box. And that's the next point, the quality of the resources that they supplied. In the TK Maxx boxes, the quality of the pieces were not good at all. It was very cheap fabric, polycotton probably, and the stuffing was really wiry. I did find the needles to be of good quality, but the thread wasn't. None of it was, basically. But in the macrame box, which was independently sourced, all the resources she supplied, so she supplied a metal hook, a wooden ring, the macrame cord as well, along with the instructions, and it was all top notch. I could not have been happier with the quality that she supplied. It just leads me to the conclusion that you get what you pay for with a craft box. Now, I've seen some craft boxes come in at over £50 or $60 a piece, and that is too much for me. Certainly for an afternoon's crafting, maybe 2 hours crafting, that is a lot. If you're going to get a quality piece, you're going to get quality instructions. Those instructions in the macrame kit not only were written with really good clear photographs, but she also offered a video instruction as well. actually thinking about it, $13.99 for all of that was a complete steal. It really, really was. I'm very, very happy that I tried these craft boxes. Let me know down below if you've tried any craft boxes, or whether you do want to, or do you prefer to buy the resources? Which do you think is the better way to go? Because I don't think there's any clear answer. I think it's really what suits the individual or suits their needs, or whether they're doing it for someone else or whatever. Holding my hands right up here to say I love macrame, and you're going to see more of that on the channel. Let me know what sort of macrame you would like to see. So if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more like it, do hit that subscribe button and give me a like, as the algorithm loves those things. If you really felt you enjoyed this video, consider purchasing a coffee for me. All the details will be down below, along with all the links and everything else. And I'll see you in the next one, which will be a haul of all the Christmas things I've been buying so far. Catch you soon. Bye for now.